Mutation. It is the key to our evolution. It is how we have evolved from a single-celled organism into the dominant species on the planet. This process is slow, normally taking thousands and thousands of years. But every few hundred millennia, evolution leaps forward.
Oh. Hi, how are you? Oh, good, yeah. No, I'm reading a book, Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley, A History of the World in Our Time. You want a copy? Well, it's hard to get books these days. I could copy for you, but yeah, the most I could do is one copy. You can't get one for your friends. It's gonna take me all year just to copy what's in this book. But yeah, it's gonna cost you a lot of money, but I'll start writing right now, and should be done in about a year. All right, I'll see you then. Imagine a world without the printed word. Hard to imagine, but that's the world that most people throughout human history lived in. And this is why most people throughout human history didn't know how to read and didn't know how to write. Books had to be written by hand, a long and tedious process, and because of this they were very expensive. So reading and writing were luxuries only had by the rich and powerful. That all changed around 1440 with the invention of the Gutenberg press.
It was the end of the Middle Ages, the start of the Renaissance. In the mid-1400s, when Europe was in a great rebirth, what is probably one of the most influential inventions in history was created. Created by Johannes Gutenberg, the printing press suddenly allowed for the mass printing of ideas. The printing press allowed ideas to spread much faster and greatly aided education. In the process, it changed the world. During the Middle Ages, most people could not read. They looked to the church to teach them about religion and how to live life. The printing press began to help people learn to read. Slowly, people became educated beings who could think for themselves. When Martin Luther came to Rome as a priest, he was enraged at the sale of indulgences. The sale of indulgences was the act of the clergy, religious leaders, selling indulgences, places in heaven, to people or their loved ones. Martin Luther himself was getting an indulgence when he observed that many of the people who were getting indulgences were poor. All of a sudden, it dawned upon him that religious leaders were taking money from the poor, the people who needed it most. He realized that the only way to buy a place in heaven was through complete repentance, asking forgiveness, and by acting righteously. He wrote these flaws of the Catholic Church and many others on paper, calling people to a debate on whether or not to change the church. This paper was named the 95 Theses. People liked his ideas. They took the paper to a printing press and printed copy after copy of the 95 Theses. They spread the papers everywhere, and even posted one on the doors of the Castle Church in Wittenberg, Germany.
The Protestant Reformation was only the beginning of the impact the Gutenberg press would have on the world. The Gutenberg press served as the oil that lit the fire of the Renaissance, a rebirth of literacy, philosophy, art, culture, and science that the world had lost for centuries. All of a sudden, the world was connected. One great idea having the ability to echo through the minds of humanity. The amazing gift of human innovation, demonstrating the ability to build on each previous idea. Marco Polo traveled the world and wrote amazing stories about people from the East. Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel, and Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa, art that still captivates the imagination of humanity to this day. Da Vinci shared his amazing mind with the world, and for the first time in human history, the people of the world had the capability to disseminate the information. The world shared in his studies of anatomy and physiology, and would come to marvel at the advancements he made in human engineering and invention. Copernicus told the world that the sun was at the center of the universe, and Galileo wrote of a universe filled with adventure and mystery. The engine of human curiosity echoed through the world. But the Renaissance was more than just new ideas catapulted into the world by one mass leap forward in human invention. The Renaissance was a rebirth. For the first time in human history, people had access to the amazing advancements in knowledge accumulated in thousands of years of written word. The incredible minds of Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, and so many others were accessible to humankind on a mass scale for the first time. A rebirth of philosophy. Soon Enlightenment thinkers like John Locke and Voltaire started to spread reason and logic throughout the world. Ideas such as liberty, progress, human rights, natural law, and the separation of church and state permeated across the world. In 1776, Thomas Paine would write a pamphlet that was read by hundreds of thousands of the only 1.2 million people who lived in colonial America. Ideas sprung a revolution, which set a precedent of a government by the people, not a small ruling elite. A French Revolution would soon follow. In just a few hundred years, the ideas of liberty dominated large sections of the globe. One invention, enabling the spread of the human word, sending a ripple effect across all humanity, all of history. Everything we hold dear today can be tracked back to one giant leap forward in human innovation.
The Internet is the defining technology of our time, an historic revolution in communications for the human race that is changing the world.
Well, the Internet is the next big thing. It is on a par with the wheel and fire and language and the printing press.
The Internet enables millions of people with personal computers to communicate and connect. It's email.
You've got mail.
It's news groups and chat rooms. It's also the world's largest marketplace and shopping mall. And it's a link to websites the world over with information for every aspect of life, and even the life after.
This is, in fact, the telecommunications infrastructure for the 21st century.
We've seen the heavy assault on our post in Benghazi that took the lives of those brave men. We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
In every country, there are those who find different religious beliefs threatening. In every culture, those who love freedom for themselves must ask themselves how much they're willing to tolerate freedom for others. That is what we saw play out in the last 2 weeks. It was a crude and disgusting video, sparked outrage throughout the Muslim world.
Is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
Julian Assange told Democracy Now! WikiLeaks has emails that will further demonstrate Clinton's role. The absolutely disastrous intervention in Libya, the destruction of the Gaddafi government, which led to the occupation of ISIS of large segments of that country, weapons flows going over to Syria, being pushed by Hillary Clinton into jihadists within Syria, including ISIS. That's there in those emails. That is treason on display, ladies and gentlemen.
FBI sources are now revealing that there's a 99% chance that multiple foreign intelligence agencies were able to successfully hack into Hillary Clinton's private, unsecure email server.
The media is completely rigged. WikiLeaks has exposed the fact that the media is not just friendly with the Clinton campaign, with the Democratic Party, with the left in general. They're working together. They're not talking about James O'Keefe's bombshell revelations about voter fraud, about the Democratic Party planning the violence at Trump rallies. They're not talking about massive WikiLeaks revelations on a daily basis.
Hi everybody, it's Stefan Molyneux from Free Domain Radio. Hope you're doing well. I have a question for you. Do you ever find that staring into the eye-bleedingly complex Mobius strip Gordian knot of Hillary Clinton's email woes gets just a little bit bewildering? Do you find yourself bewitched, bothered, baffled by it? Well, fear not, my friends. I have come to your rescue. I am going to give you the facts. And trust me, they are darker, more deceptive, more dangerous, more devious than you have probably imagined. But hey, would we expect anything less from a Clinton?
Also interesting is, remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media. So everything you learn about this, you're learning from us.
Let me just mention briefly one threat in particular that should concern all Americans, Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike, especially those who serve in our Congress. The epidemic of malicious fake news and false propaganda that flooded social media over the past year. It's now clear that so-called fake news can have real-world consequences. This isn't about politics or partisanship. Lives are at risk. Lives of ordinary people just trying to go about their days, to do their jobs, contribute to their communities. It's a danger that must be addressed, and addressed quickly. Bipartisan legislation is making its way through Congress to boost the government's response to foreign propaganda, and Silicon Valley is starting to grapple with the challenge and threat of fake news. It's imperative that leaders in both the private sector and the public sector step up to protect our democracy and innocent lives.
Fascism, a form of radical authoritarian nationalism, characterized by dictatorial powers, forcible suppression of opposition, and control of industry and commerce, that came to prominence in the early 20th century Europe.
Facebook suspended me on Friday for posting hate speech.
YouTube says it will fight extremist content by censoring controversial videos.
Every single time, my friends, every single time. Every time some amazing new piece of communications technology comes to the forefront of human communications, unites us all together, gives us access to information, to arguments, to personalities, to perspectives that stretch and broaden and deepen and enrich our minds every single time. Technology brings us closer together. The powers that be want to crush it, drive it underground, and divide us. This goes back all the way to ancient Athens. Socrates invents a verbal form of philosophy called the Socratic method. It spreads like wildfire, allowing people to examine the claims of sophists, liars, and politicians, exposing them for the fools and manipulators that they are. And it seems like they scatter, and philosophy and reason and communication are going to win. Win! Finally! God, let us win! But like a child running through a cloud of seagulls, they scatter and then they return to continue their feast after he passes. And this is happening now. It happened with the printing press. Invention of the printing press caused a massive explosion in literature and literacy and gave the common people access to religious texts, sometimes for the first time. Wow! Fantastic! Look at all the things we can read, all the arguments we can be exposed to. Sorry, now you have to have a license to run a printing press. Sorry, now you have to have the king's official stamp on every book.
The powers that be were unsuccessful in their attempts to suppress the written word following the invention of the printing press. The printing press led to an intellectual revolution which forever changed the world for the better. Ideas such as natural law, liberty, democracy, and republicanism are now commonplace due to one incredible leap in human innovation. The internet is arguably the most significant innovation since the printing press. The last 30 years has led to a mass awakening into the covered-up, nefarious, criminal, and often evil activities of modern governments. Modern governments are now passing legislation and partnering with industries such as Google, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter to shut down internet speech under the false umbrella of restricting hate speech and guarding against fake news. Imagine what you wouldn't know if it wasn't for the internet. An entire world of information one click away. Imagine what you can know 5, 10, 15 years from now, only if the internet remains free and open. Stand up for your freedom. Stand up for intellectual revolution before the gates of Renaissance and Enlightenment close on us all, once and for all.